Ah, hello, I'm Nathaniel Smith, and tell me if you haven't heard this like 1,000 times before, how Hollywood doesn't do anything but make sequel, prequel, remake, reboot, reimagining, adaptations, yada, yada, yada. And although I'm not saying that isn't true, why is the fact that there's all these adaptations a problem? Now, this is a serious question. Let's take a look on anime right now for a second. Anime is obviously growing more and more popular with every day, and I got nothing like against it or anything. But the interesting thing about anime that I think everyone kind of ignores is that almost every anime series, not all, mind you, but the vast majority of anime series are adaptations. Which begs the question: why does anime never get any flack for constantly making adaptations, whereas Hollywood does? And there's actually a simple answer to this. This is something that nobody seems to be talking about at all because no one's even considered it. But have you ever considered the problem isn't the fact that Hollywood is making sequel, prequel, remake, reboot, reimagining adaptations, but rather what it's adapting and why it's adapting it? Because that's why anime is succeeding and Hollywood's failing. Anime is succeeding because most of their adaptations that they choose to do are focused on what they feel fits for their medium, or what they feel that they can, that they can work to fit in their medium, so to speak. Now, this is what Hollywood used to do back in the day. Okay, a lot of established classics that we've just accepted over the years, even back in the day in old Hollywood, were adaptations. The Thin Man was an adaptation of a novel, as was The Maltese Falcon. And they're basically classic movies now. So it's not the fact that adaptations are the problem, it's what's being adapted. And this really begs the question of what is so wrong with the adaptations in modern Hollywood today? And the answer is actually pretty simple. We're adapting stuff that we don't need to adapt. We're adapting material for, as you all know, you've probably heard it 1,000 times, nostalgia, intertextuality, all that shit. It's deliberately being done to just ride off the popularity of a series or a film, whatever, like all the Disney remakes. And this is really where the problem of adaptation comes from. Because you should not be trying to adapt things that have already been done, especially done well. It's a really stupid thing to do. And unless you do something really creative and different with it, it's going to work. Okay? Instead of looking for the most popular, successful franchises or series off of by leeching it, you instead just look for books that can fit your medium. Okay? This is, again, what old Hollywood used to do all the time. They would adapt stuff that they would fit in their medium. We don't have that now. And part of the problem is, as much as we want to give flack to Hollywood, and there's a lot of flack we got to give Hollywood. We cannot deny, as a people, we can't deny that the audience, me and you, are responsible for a lot of this. Now, don't look at me like you aren't. The Disney remakes clearly make money. It's why Disney keeps doing remakes. You clearly go to the theaters to watch them, even though you know they're shit, and even though you know that you are not even going to remember the remake. When you hear Aladdin, you're going to think of the animated film. You're never going to think about the remake. You're more likely to remember the Aladdin theater show from California Adventure than you are to remember the frickin' Aladdin live action movie. and this is honestly a big issue, because when you're adapting stuff, you should never be adapting stuff because of its popularity. You should be adapting stuff both because of how good it is as a story, but most importantly, how well can it translate and fit into your medium. Let me use The Thin Man as a good example, because I've actually read the book of The Thin Man, and I see right away why Hollywood picked up The Thin Man. If you ever read The Thin Man, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Reading The Thin Man, it's nearly already written like a screenplay. It's got all that snappy, catchy 30s quick dialogue that was the thing back in the day. And not to mention the quirky and memorable characters and the you know the wealthy husband and wife that are just doing detective stuff for fun, basically. And they adapted it because it fit their medium, and they knew what to do when they made the film of it. And this is the thing. This is what all Hollywood adaptations used to do. And there was still some of that in the early part of the 20th century. But whenever something that was adapted was done and it wasn't like the established franchise series thing, most cases it either didn't do well at all, or it barely made enough success and then you just forgot about it. Like, take Arrival, okay? It's one of the probably most solid movies Hollywood had made in the last half a decade or so, a little over half a decade. And the thing is, Arrival is based off a short story, I believe. I haven't read the short story, I've only seen the film. But you can see why Arrival was adapted, because it had good material to work with. It was adapted for the material that was in that story, with the whole communicating with aliens and such, and the whole seeing the future thing. That's the whole point that Arrival is structured on. It's material adapted because of it's good material to adapt for their medium of film. This is also the case with Hugo. Probably one of the most underrated Martin Scorsese movies ever directed. Because this is a fantastic movie adaptation of a quasi-popular book that most people probably haven't heard of, to be honest. It's honestly a shame because the film and the book are fantastic, and the book adaptation, the film adaptation, I mean, is just stellar. It's a clear love letter to film as a whole, especially early silent film, and it clearly shows on every minute of screen time. It's just honestly a shame how, because it wasn't established, everyone ignored it. Yeah, and this is. Let me give you an example of series that were remakes of stuff that are good and why they were good. Okay, or adaptations of stuff that are been established. Okay, look at the Mission Impossible franchise, or the Ocean's 11 through 13 movies, or the Pirates of the Caribbean. At least the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. They all have one thing in common. Okay, they're not actually adapting the material that they're using to sell their movies. What they're doing is they're using the stuff like the Ocean's 11 film and Mission Impossible series and Pirates of the Caribbean to just make a certain genre movie that they want to do. So, like, obviously for Mission Impossible films, like, hey, let's do a spy movie. Let's see what we can do with that, and just sort of like experiment with structure with different directors and script writers, screenwriters, such. And that's the same with the Ocean's 11 through 13. Like, they're doing heist movies. The whole thing is just, let's see what we can do with heist movies. How can we, do heist movies different than what is done before, and so on and so forth. Really, it wasn't. Ocean's 11 wasn't necessarily a remake of Ocean's 11. It was just basically their take on a heist movie. That's the best way to put it. It was the creative team's take on a heist movie that just happens to use the name of Ocean's 11 to help sell it more. Pirates of the Caribbean was the same way, at least the first film, where it's like, let's make a Pirates movie, but we'll just, we'll use the Pirates of the Caribbean name and some Pirates of the Caribbean imagery in the film from the ride to sort of help sell it more. But the point wasn't to remake or adapt the material that's named after. It's to just do their version of a heist film or a spy film or a pirate film, just using that as title. And that is actually a pretty solid way of making movies. Like, it helps sell stuff. Like, this is a problem with modern adaptations. You look at a lot of the lousy remakes that have happened in recent years. The Jungle Book movie, Ben-Hur, Murder on the Orient Express. They're doing fucking West Side Story. Why in the hell are you doing West Side Story? It's already been done. This is the reason why Hollywood gets such a bitchin' about its adaptations. Okay, now compare that to anime. Like anime adapts manga that they feel that they can do either because the anime perfectly fits their medium or because they've found a way to work an actual anime adaptation into a certain manga. This is again how Hollywood used to do things before it just constantly focused on just making adaptations of already established stuff. Why are you readapting The Great Gatsby when you've already done it? You know, I mean, the thing about the Jungle Book movie, I use the Jungle Book movie as a good example. Is like you could have actually made a great Jungle Book movie remake if you didn't try to remake the Disney movie at all, and you didn't try to make a cookie cutter conventional action adventure film. You know, you know why you could have made an actual great Jungle Book movie? You could have adapted the fucking book. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the Jungle Book is based off of a book, and the Jungle Book has never really been adapted into film at all, ever, not once. Literally, I'm not joking. I'm serious. It's never been adapted. Like, yes, you have the Disney movie, and there's some other earlier Jungle Book movie, and some '90s Jungle Book movie, and obviously the current Jungle Book movie. But none of those movies are Jungle Book. They're not adapting from the Jungle Book. They're just making it either a Tarzan ripoff or just a movie riding on the Sherman Brothers music. Don't get me wrong, the Sherman Brothers music is awesome, but it's not a Jungle Book movie. The only Jungle Book adaptation we really got is the Chuck Jones Jungle Book shorts that happened. I think there's like a couple of them. That's the only proper Jungle Book adaptation we've ever had to this day. So missed opportunity there, and this is as I said, the problem with adaptations in Hollywood. It's not just that they're milking off already established shit and trying to feed off nostalgia. It's the fact that they refuse to look for new material. They refuse to try new books or comic books or whatever to adapt from because it's not established. You know, unless it's established stuff that they can milk off for nostalgia or fits into their political, ideological talking head points as if they didn't have the news for that already. It's just, yeah. So, this is the reason why the whole prequel, sequel, remake, reboot, reimagining adaptation thing is a problem. It's not that adaptations are so predominant, it's the fact of what's being adapted. Look at the old Hollywood movies from any decade. You know, any decade, you name it. Even to the '90s, early 2000s. Like, look at a film like Get Shorty. Okay, you can, I don't know what the book, I believe it was a book, Get Shorty is based off, was like, but you can totally see why they adapted Get Shorty into a film. Because it just was a great transfer to their medium. This is the sort of thing Hollywood used to do. They just don't do that anymore. They're too focused on what's already popular, what's already established, what can we milk off for profit for, you know. So yeah, uh, yeah. That's it for today. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye. Bye.